Hello everybody, Stephen with Tabletop Guild. A little different video today. I am putting my Imperial Guard project on hold for a couple of weeks. I have been working on it now for about 2 weeks, but I have run out of las guns. So while I source more las guns, the project's going on the shelf and I'm going to work on something different. So talking with Shane, what we've decided to do is we're going to do our Space Marines. Talking about the Space Marines, we said, well, let's do prep work and everything. Let's just cover it all, because he's asking about how we prep them, how we get them ready, how we paint them, and all the details. So we're going to make a video on the basics. These are some tips I've picked up over the years, and some I've seen on YouTube, some I've not seen at all. So I'm not sure if maybe they got phased out because people didn't like them, or if it's just no one has thought about them in recent years and they just kind of faded away. So I'm going to share them with you guys. Okay, so let's start off with first thing you're going to do when you get your miniatures, whether it's blister packs like this one, which this is for Urban War, doesn't matter, or it's plastic sprues like this. No matter how you get your miniature, you're going to want to clean these miniatures. So let me show you what that's going to look like. Hold on. Okay, so what I have here is just a big plastic tub. This is bigger than what you need, but you get the idea. So you're going to put your miniatures in here, either on the sprues or off the sprues, however you want to do it. Same way with blister packs. You're going to fill this up with warm water and a couple of drops of dish soap. This is Palmolive. It makes no difference what you use. You just need dish soap. 2 or 3 drops of dish soap. Fill the container up and just rinse off the miniatures. Run them back and forth in the water, then pour them off. Run warm water over the sprues for about 30 seconds just to make sure you get all the residue of the soap off. And then you're just going to take all these, throw them on a towel. This is just a bathroom towel that was in rough shape, so I'm using it for paints. So I just paint off this and put your miniatures on there, let them set for 30 minutes or so, maybe flip them over a couple of times just to make sure they dry. This whole process will take you, for a squad of Marines or squad of Imperial Guard or anything, 10-man squad's going to take you all of 3 minutes to do this. So the time you grab your container, fill it with water, put a couple drops of soap in it, wash them off, rinse off the residue, you're done. 3 minutes. A little bit of prep work will save you a whole lot of headache down the road. Years ago, I bought a box of goblins, night goblins, I believe is what they were. And when I opened up the box, you could actually see the mold release setting on the sprues. And it was just a real thick, gummy substance. I never knew what mold release was until then. Now I know. Now I wash everything off. So that's that part. Let's go to part 2. Okay, part 2 is your paints. As you can see, I have some cheap Walmart paint, which is Apple Barrel. It's 50 cents a bottle. I have some Vallejo paints here. I have a few Games Workshop paints, some from Flames of War. These paints are really good paints. Not the best ones out there, but they'll easily do everything we're looking at doing. I even have this. Let's move that out of the way. This is a cheap $20 starter set. Came with 36 paints and a few paint brushes. It was 20 bucks. Will this and those work? Yes, 100%. They will easily paint any of these miniatures that we see here. The only thing you have to worry about, if you're painting with the Apple Barrel or the cheaper paints, it's going to take 2 or 3 coats to get your colors like they should be and get them even. If you're going to paint Blood Angels, for example, you're not going to want to use, now I know the red's not the right color, but you're not going to want to use Apple Barrel paints. It's going to take you 3 or 4 coats to get the Blood Angel red to look even and look nice. Where you could take something like this one, which is a Scarlet, probably do it in 1, maybe 2 coats. Same way with the paints over there. It's going to take you 3 or 4 coats. So use those paints for your terrain or if you're just getting started and you want to make sure you can do it, take 10 bucks in the Walmart, get yourself 20 paints. That will easily cover everything you're looking for. That'll get you going. That'll get you started in this. So if you have questions on that, let me know. But as you can see, I do have quite a bit of the apple barrel paints. I have a container full of them underneath my desk here. These paints here, the Vallejo, I've had them for 8 to 10 years. I don't use that much of them because I'll show you why here in a few minutes. But they last a long time. Definitely worth the investment. Next, we're going to go to brushes. As you can see, I have a assortment of different types of brushes. This one, let's see if I can, maybe I can, there we go. There's my brush tip. It's not real small, it's not super fine, but it will do just about everything I need to do. I use that more than anything else. All my zombies were painted with that brush. Now I did use a few others for some of the bigger areas, but my details were all painted with that brush. I have an assortment of cheaper paint brushes, which I use for terrain, but these are for my miniatures. And I have way more here than you need. 6 or 7 brushes is way more. One detail brush like that, and a couple of dry brushes. Sorry, I'm getting in the way here. Those are just real soft brushes for dry brushing. That's all those are. Okay, next we're going to do washes. These 2 washes are what I use for my miniatures. If I'm painting miniatures, this is the wash I use. I have black and a brown wash. This is a black wash I only use for terrain. The reason why, this is a cheap, easy wash. It's water, paint, and a little bit of dish soap. It mixes that up. The container works great. I just mass produce it when I paint terrain. Here on these guys, it's going to be way too dark, so you're not going to want to use something like that. So you get your store-bought paints, store-bought inks or washes. Save yourself a whole lot of time, a whole lot of headache. You can get a much better result in the end. And let me get the next 2 tips for you in just a moment. Okay, so here I have 2 glasses. These are cheap $1 piece glasses. When you wash your brushes out, you're going to wash. You can see this water is very murky. You're going to wash your brush in this one, and then you're going to move to this one. What you're going to do this for is you wash here, you're going to get about 90% of the paint out of the brush, and then you're going to go over here, you can get the rest of it. If you just clean there, you're going to clean your brush, change your water much more often, and you're going to get paint stuck in your paintbrush, which is not what you want. So you wash it good. When you wash, what I do, swing back and forth just like that, and I'll push it against the side of the glass, and I just rotate it in my fingers. You can see how I'm just rotating it back and forth. Just shake it off. That's it. So if I'm painting, wash it in this one, move it to that one, and I'm done. I will then always take my brush, wipe it dry. Now it's still wet, which is perfectly fine, but that gets the majority of the water off. Now what I didn't cover a second ago was when you store your brushes, always store your brushes with the bristles up. If you do it the other way, your bristles are going to get bent and they're not going to work right. Always store them up. Might be a better way to do it, but that's what's always worked for me. Now the 2 glass tip, I've never seen anyone use that on YouTube. Doesn't mean no one does. I just haven't seen anyone do it. That is a really good idea. Started that many years ago when I participated in a painting class. Now, this little tip I picked up right before I stopped painting a few years ago. This is what everyone refers to as a wet palette. Now, this green paint, as you can see, is still wet. I can easily paint with that if I wanted to. That paint has been out of the bottle, sitting in this wet palette for over a week. That's a long time for paint to be setting. Now, all you're going to want to do, let me grab a paint here. When you use your wet palette, just going to take a little bit, put a little drop of paint just like that. Now I can paint with that all I need to. When I'm done, I put the lid back on the wet palette, put everything up. I can come back tomorrow, I can come back in a week. The paint will still be there. That's why my Vallejo paints last as long as they do, because you're using just a couple of drops and you're not wasting it. You're not throwing it away when you're done. If you decide to make a custom color and you mix two together, you can easily do that right here. I moved them too far apart, but you get the idea. I now have that color orange. Now I can close this wet palette up, come back in a week. I have the exact same color orange here. I don't have to try to match it. I don't have to try to figure out what I used. It's right here on my palette. So use a wet palette. Very, very helpful. Saves you a whole lot of time. Whoop. Snap the lid back on this one. Okay, wet palettes. I picked up the 2 containers for $1 at Dollar Tree. Wax paper, again $1. The sponges, $1 for a pack of about 6. And you can see I just trimmed my edges so they would fit down in my container like I wanted it to. All you have to do, take your sponge, pour a little bit of water, drop your paper right on top of it, and now you have a wet palette. And if you ever wanted to thin your paint, there's water right here that you just move straight on top and you're ready to paint. Now, I'm not an expert on wet palettes. I do really enjoy the process. I think it works really well. I think it's excuse me, I think it's a great idea, but I did not invent it. I did not come up with it. I copied it off someone off YouTube years and years ago. So use wet palettes. I think I got one more thing. Hold on a second. Okay, last tip. Now, this may sound kind of ridiculous, may sound kind of stupid. The only way to get good at painting is to paint. Paint, paint, paint. Paint a lot. So, what you're going to want to do is, you can see I have sandbags over here. Practice on sandbags. Practice on terrain. Figure whether it's barrels like there, sandbags that are here, whatever you got. Just practice painting. If all you have is miniatures, pick up a miniature. Put paint on it. You're going to learn how your brush and your paint and your water, they all mix together. How it flows on the miniature, how it looks when it dries, how to mix colors. You're just going to have to do it. Take your time. It might take you an hour to paint the first guy. It might take you a week to paint the first guy. Doesn't matter how long it takes. Just get painting. That's the key. So, thin coats, you'll be just fine. If for some reason you do put 15 or 20 coats on this and it's all gloomy and glumpy and looks like crap, that is completely fine. We can fix that. I'm going to show you how we fix that. This product here is called Awesome. Really, so it's called. Okay. So what we're going to do is we take Awesome, put it in a container like so. As you can see, I got a couple miniatures in there. Take our painted miniature. As you can see, this guy here, it's painted not bad, but not great. But honestly, he's the wrong color for my army. So put him in there. Now tomorrow morning, 12 hours from now, I'll take the miniature out, take him over to the sink, use a toothbrush and warm water, turn the water on so it's just running over it, brush the miniature with the toothbrush. Most of the paint's going to come off. If after 30 seconds the paint's not coming off, put him back in the Awesome for another 12 hours. Come back and hit him again. It'll come off. Most paint, especially Apple Barrel, Vallejo, or this cheap stuff, will all come off with Awesome. I have seen very few paints that will not come clean with Awesome. Anyway, in the bottom of the box, I think right there, that's a Space Marine. So I have Games Workshop plastics. I have lead. I have the plastic bases. All that's in here. I have left miniatures in here for 2 weeks before. Never caused me a problem. Can't guarantee you won't, but I'm willing to bet you if 12 hours is not going to hurt anything except the paint on the miniature. Warm water, toothbrush, they will come right off. That's it. Very, very simple. Okay. Okay, guys. I think that's all my tips. There might be a few more that I can't remember off the top of my head, which is fine. If I remember them, I'll make another video for those. But if you want to be painting miniatures, there's nothing stopping you. We can all do it. I am not the world's best painter. I'm a pretty good tabletop miniature painter. I have won a few painting awards for my Space Marines in the past. You know, it's not that I'm a great painter. What I do is I do a very good tabletop standard, and I keep everyone that same shade. And these guys are all infantry. There's nothing special about them. You know, characters are going to get a little more time. They're going to get a little more detail. Start on your infantry, build yourself up. Once you have your infantry done, you can then do your characters and spend twice as long on them. You'll have them look really, really well. I think that's all I have for now, man. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Post them in the comments. If you have suggestions or you have tips that you know that I missed, post them in the comments. Let us know. We're all learning. We're all still growing in the hobby. So, oh, there is one thing I forgot to tell you. Okay. These are metallics. I have a cheap gold and a cheap silver. These are junk. Don't use them. Get a good quality silver and gold. This stuff is junk. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. It is super thin. It is a pain in the butt to deal with. Get a good paint when it comes to these two. So, good paint for these two and your washes. Everything else doesn't matter as much. Okay, man, that's it. Any questions, let me know. Thanks.